Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today we are looking at GDevelop. In fact, we are revisiting GDevelop, and if you are looking for a 2D cross-platform open-source game engine, GDevelop might be a really good choice for you. Now, this is an engine I've looked at in the past, thus a revisit. One of the problems with GDevelop is they release so many updates so frequently, I can't really do videos about them. I need them to do, enough in an update that I could justify a 5 to 10 minute video. That's why things like Unreal, Unity, Unigine, and so on work for me. They generally do about quarterly releases, and the amount that I cover justifies a video, whereas GDevelop constantly updates, but it makes it hard to do videos on it. So we're going to take a look at it today, starting from the very beginning. So here I am creating a brand new project. As you're going to see, there are a decent number of templates to start from, and one of the areas where they really shine is there are a ton of samples out there to get you started with as well. So you see here, we just scroll down, and you're going to find the community provides quite a bit of content. We're going to go here. Let's just start with a simple platformer. All right, so here you go, using some of Kenny's assets. This is the world of GDevelop. Now, one of the major ways that this works is kind of going to be similar to something like Construct, if you've ever worked with it in the past, in that you have this flow graph style of programming. It looks daunting at first, but it's actually quite a simple way of coding. We'll show you exactly how this works in just a second. Let's go on back to our scene. Over here, you've got your scene hierarchy. Here you've got various different nodes in it. For example, here is the player object. Here are the properties of that player. You can edit them over here. You can move things around. You can add instance variables and so on to them that you can then access in these event sheets. You can have multiple different event sheets, by the way. Here is the hierarchy of entities in your world. You can basically start instancing things by basically just drag and drop into the world. And there we have created a new instance of coin, for example. You want to test your game out? Of course, just click here. You're ultimately generating an HTML style game. There, I died. Never said I was good at the game, but that's kind of how it works. Things that are instanced, again, into the world over here, you can create new objects by adding them down here at the bottom. We're going to look at one of the new features that's here right now, and that is the brand new asset store. And this is actually something I think, honestly, every single game engine should have. It's the ability to pull in assets. In this case, they're almost entirely, actually, they are entirely free. And it's mostly from Kenny NL assets at this point in time, but there's some community contributed stuff like particle systems and so on. So if you're working, say, on a space shooter, you've got a number of different assets you can bring in here. So let's go ahead. We'll bring in a green enemy. So again, this is a Kenny asset in this particular case. If you want to go ahead and grab it, it's going to download it and add it to your scene. So I got it. Okay, we're good to go. You can also grab and search for objects over here. You can create a new base object. These are your basic types, things like lights, shapes, 9 patches, particle emitters, text, tiles, sprites, and so on. So our green enemy is now created. There, we've got it right there. We can do some stuff to it also here. So I can come in here and edit it, and we could define and work on a bunch of animations. So if I wanted to create new hitboxes or a new set of animations for it, I can add a new animation in. Another nice thing that you can see here, and this is one of the ways that GDevelop has really been improving recently, is they've been integrating more and more open source projects into it. So here they're using the Piscal text editor, and you can use this for basically doing frame by frame animations. You can keep adding new frames there. So let's make that guy a little bit, let's go to a smiley, smiley, sad, smiley, sad. So you got this built-in image editor there, so you can add multiple frames and such in. You've also got the option of adding behaviors to entities and so on. These are predefined things. So you hear if I want to make this thing draggable, and it'll just add the code in for me. I just drop a draggable in. Want to add path bindings or physics to something, you can do it right here. Tweening, platform character, so a platform that a character can jump on. Or if we want to add new behaviors, once again, there's a ton that have been provided by the community. So if you don't want to get into code, you can actually get these predefined behaviors that have already been created for you, and you can add them in that way. I'm not going to use a behavior in this case, but now that we've got this guy defined, let's drop one into the scene. So there we go. We now have this guy in the scene. Now let's look at some of the coding logic behind it. So we're going to go over here into the new scene. Now one of the cool things here is you can actually create one of these sheets for, I could create one for the player. We could just call into it. So here you can see, here we've got another sheet specifically done for handling all of the enemies that are in our scene. So you notice I got this little guy over here, and this is the sheet, completely separate sheet, that is called at that point in the timeline for handling all of the enemies. You can think of this as, I don't know, classes or modules or functions, kind of. It's a way of breaking your code out into manageable pieces. But what we can do here, so we have all of our, at the beginning of the scene, we'll do this. We got condition and then action. I'm gonna go ahead, this is playing the character animation stuff. So right below this guy, I'll add a new, let's go add a comment. So we got a new comment. I did that wrong. So let's just grab this guy over here and we'll move it back up. So here is my comment. What I'll do this, here is spaceship stuff. All right, so comment is literally just a comment. It describes what comes below, or it can literally just be there for no apparent reason. And we're gonna add a new event below. So here's our spaceship stuff. Over here on this one side, we've got basically condition. On the second side, we've got action. So we can have it just basically no condition, or we can have it on green enemy, and then we could have it based off of where it is on the position or so on. But what I'm going to do is, again, have no particular condition. We also have another set of conditions over here. This is based on your game logic. So, for example, if you switch to full screen, it will fire off this event. Okay, so that is how this could go. I'm going to cancel out. So instead, what we're going to do is put something over here without a condition. This is an action. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and say action, green player, and then we're going to do a move towards, so position, actually no, it's not position, it's down here further, direction. All right, what I want here is add a force to move towards an object or towards a position. We'll do an object, so, no, position, here, we'll do that way. All right, so the X position, we come down here, there's a formula manager here, so we're gonna go mouse cursor X, and then, yeah, cam, okay, we're good. And then here, we can also type it, by the way, so mouse Y, like so. And then finally, the speed, we'll do that at 200 pixels, and done. All right, so we now have a new guy in our scene. There is our spaceship, and what it's going to do is follow the cursor. It's really kind of that simple. Now let's do a conditional event that's attached to that guy as well. So here we go. We'll add a new event below, condition here, other conditions, mouse and touch, mouse button released. All right, and then over here, we'll do left mouse button. Okay, so there we go. When we release the left mouse button, and then we'll go over here, we'll go to other actions, and then we'll say go to audio, play a sound. You've also got the option of playing it on different channels. So if you only want to play it once, or you have it on multiple channels, multiple tracks of audio, you can do it that way as well. So we'll go ahead and pick the audio file. Now here's another example. This has got integration for another thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually work for me. So let's do coin noise there. There is an editor for audio files. Again, there seems to be a bit of a bug. I'm not 100% certain if it's on my end or what, but I'm not going to be demonstrating that. But it is another example of how they're integrating this third-party community stuff into it, which is kind of cool. All right, so there we have it. Now I go here, hit play, and then every time I click the mouse, all right, so there we go. And now let's go ahead and do another change here just to showcase what you can do. So we got the spaceship selected. Let's go back on over here. We'll edit that guy. We will go over to behaviors. We'll add a new behavior, and let's add, all right, search new. What I want to do is add a bounce. So this is a community provided. By the way, you can also create your own, as you can see from down here. Most of the logic on the back end, I believe, is all JavaScript. All right, so now that we have that bounce behavior downloaded, what we're going to do is go back here to our object, go here to behaviors, and now you're going to see we have the bounce behavior. I actually already added. Let me just get rid of that. I'll show you the whole process right here, and then there is our bounce and apply it. So now we have the bounce ability attached to this guy. There's still some logic that needs to be done, but we can basically go ahead and edit the scene. So let's go back here to the top. We're going to add another action down below here, and we're just going to do a green enemy. So this is something that's going to happen, no condition, so it's going to happen every single frame. We're going to do a bounce, pick what to bounce off. We're going to bounce off the player and go ahead, OK on that one. And so now we have the bounce attribute defined. Go ahead and run our example. Once again, we're following our mouse cursor around, but watch when we hit our player. So now we're bouncing off of the player. Same from every direction. And then boom, we now have the ability to bounce. So that is yeah, build it, add behaviors dynamically. There's a bunch more to this guy that I haven't really showcased. Down here, you'll see you can have multiple different layers. You've got your instance list. This is the list of every single thing that's in the scene. By the way, you can shut these things down. So if you want to focus your editing environment, you can do so. You can also bring them back over here. So each one of these is basically a toggle. So you can bring all the various different windows and menus back into play. Over here, you have your project manager. This guy's a little popped away, hidden at the side. You got things down here like your game settings, your scenes, external events, and so on. So if you want to come back in and edit your scene, it's available here. And then back in there, off you go, or if you have external events and so on. And then finally, when you're ready and done with your game, you basically go to File, Export, and here's where you've got your various different options available here. We have Android with iOS coming soon, web, Mac OS, Linux, and Windows, and then you've got 8 Facebook Instant Games, manual deployment, and then let's see if we got anything experimental. And under experimental, we got cocos2d.js. So here's where you can actually build and export out your games. And that's kind of a quick look at GDevelop 5. So now we're going to switch over and look at some of the technical details behind the scenes. So if you're interested in grabbing GDevelop, as I mentioned off the start, this guy is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. You can grab it at gdevelop-app.com. Another cool thing is you can actually run it online. So it can run entirely in the browser. You can head on over here to learn more about that. This kind of runs down a lot of what we just looked at. The nice thing is there is a nice set of documentation. On top of that, there is also a good swath of examples to learn from. So if you want to come in here, there's a ton of examples in here. So you want to learn how to drag the camera with the mouse, grab that one, and you can open it up directly. So here we are directly inside of my browser still right here. So as I mentioned, this can run entirely in your browser. It is the exact same experience as when you download and run it locally, it's kind of nice. So if you want, you can come on in here, grab various different examples there. There were, once again, a ton of them. Yeah, we're just going to leave. And some of them look pretty good. Some of these are full-blown games. So say you want to make an isometric game, there is an isometric example in here. So it kind of shows you how these things work, how to make things work together. And you've got, again, all of your tools available down here. All of the things that we saw in action before are available here. So for example, if I'm working on an object and I go into edit, I still have access to Piskel, for example, and other tools like that. So everything you need is in here, as is integration with the store, which was just added in this particular release. On that topic, releases, this was just released a few days ago, so 4 days back. The big new thing was the new asset store, which again, I think is something that every single game engine should have, even if it is just for community assets. But as I mentioned, there's a ton of releases added in here. So if you keep going, you're going to see the previous release, which was done on October the 15th. You got a decent number of things added in there as well. And there's some cool stuff. I didn't showcase that, actually. Let me just go back over here. If I go down here to the layers, I can do something cool. So here's like background layer. I come in here and I can go ahead and add an effect to that layer. So here we go. We got various different effects. I can add a new effect in. And here's my various different choices. So there's a number of kind of like shader effects and such that you can add in here. So for example, let's ASCIIfy our background. So there we're done. So here we are in the editor. I wish it showed in the editor, but when I go ahead and run it, there, it converted our background into ASCII. It's actually kind of cool. So anyways, that is one of the features that was added in. So you can see here, it is updated very commonly. So here in September, I'm not going to do a video about that, for example. And then like in August, we had dynamic lights. Well, when you add all those things together, dynamic lights, this new store, layer effects, particle improvements, and so on, when you start adding all these things together, it's certainly worth covering. Unfortunately, it's just split across multiple releases. So that's why I said I'm going to just revisit like I did today. And I think I'll do that periodically. Every 4 or 5 months, maybe I'll check in on GDevelop, see how it's going. But if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of what you saw here with GDevelop? Are you impressed? I know one of the things that I found off-putting on this guy is the user interface was a little iffy in the past, but they've really kind of upped their game there. They've actually upped their game across the board. This engine is so much more polished than it used to be, and it just has more and more and more features being added in, and a lot of them are being driven by the community, which is always nice to see. So that is GDevelop, open source, cross-platform. Oh, on the topic of open source, here we are. It's also available up on GitHub. You will notice it is under the, it's mostly C++, by the way, with 30% of it in JavaScript. I don't know where the license went, The license should be here, but anyways, the license, here we go. I believe it's MIT. Oh, it's complicated. So the core library, native HTML5 game engine, new IDE, and all extensions are under the MIT license. So it looks like it could be that some of the individual components aren't, but it is an MIT licensed game engine, which is a very flexible license in terms of what you can do with it. So it's actually the same as the Godot engine. They're both MIT licensed, and it's one of my favorites for sure. So GDevelop, it's come a hell of a long way. Let me know, are you interested in periodic updates on what's new with GDevelop? And I don't know, tutorial series, anything along those lines? Let me know what you thought of GDevelop in general. Are you using it, or are you using one of its direct competitors, something like Construct or Stencil or anything else like that? And what do you think when you see them compared side by side? It's another one of those open source apps. I think this one actually deserves a little bit more attention than it gets, especially because of the amount of progress it has made in the last year. It's really quite impressive what they've done with it. So let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.